My presentation this evening is about Africa unleashing her potential. But one must go back to history in order to understand where we are and where it is that we are going and what it is that we ought to do going forward. We talk about globalization, but throughout history, Africa has always been globalized. The slave masters globalized us. We were commodified. Africa and Africans built Europe and America. Half of the population of Africa was taken away initially by the Arabs on the eastern coast and ultimately on the western coast and some from the southern coast, and taken in what was agrarian Europe and agrarian United States of America. And you built Europe and America by the sweat of their brow. When slavery lost her luster, the colonial project came about. European countries sat, as history will remind you, in Berlin, in a conference that sometimes is called King Leopold's Conference, and parceled out Africa with undue regard to the realities on the ground. Your country was given out to the Germans. And the Germans did not stop there. They went to Tanganyika and took Tanganyika, and they did not stop there. They went to Dahomey and took yet another slider from that western coast. Even Portugal, little Portugal, took big Angola, and they took big Mozambique, and they took Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde, and their neighbors did not rest. They were Johnny-come-latelys, and they got a sliver of land called Equatorial Guinea. And the British and the French, of course, took the lion's share. The Italians tried in Ethiopia without success, but succeeded in Libya. And the Belgians, little Belgium, took the Democratic Republic of Congo. In 1945, in San Francisco, in the United States, when the United Nations was being created and it was being said that, well, we are all equal, 3 years later, Henry Fafoot was in South Africa creating a regime as pernicious can be, saying that you Negroids who are present here are nothing but good for drawing water and hewing wood. And this country was to suffer under the weight of that regime. But it must always be remembered that the Africans who are resisting, the Herero resisted here. And almost half the population was decimated. It was not until very recently that the Germans apologized. In Tanganyika, the Maji rebellion, and in Kenya, my Kenya, the Mau Mau rebellion. So it was not as if we succumbed. We were forced. And we succumbed by dint of superior weaponry. But in the 1950s, we gained our political independence. And the words of Kwame Nkrumah in Accra, Ghana ring true. He said that the independence of Ghana means nothing if the rest of Africa is not free. And you will remember that during that period there were many countries that were gaining their independence. And you, particularly the young ones, will not remember that the African leaders of the day knew who was where in the West. Names such as Modibo Keita of the Sudan, now Mali made sense. Some of them did not go to school. Ahmed Seko Toure of Guinea, Nnamdi Azikiwe of Nigeria, and in the same country, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and the Sardanar of Sokoto, Sir Ahmadu Bello. They were great Africans. Julius Kambarage Nyerere, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, Kamuzu Banda, Kenneth Kaunda, down south here, you still remember, and I'm told is still alive and well, Sam Myoma, and the late Andimba Haman Toivo Ya Toivo. In other words, they were great Africans, and the clarity with which they saw Africa was as astounding as it was titillating. I'm inviting you to take time to read the 32 speeches delivered between the 23rd and 25th days of May 1963 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Each one of them, even the one that you did not think much about, had something to say that was sound and good. But of course, the most enlightened speech of the day, man with a sense of urgency and conviction, was that of Osajefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. He exhorted the leaders who are present on that day, let us not leave this hall without one army, without one command force. Let us not leave here without one country with its capital in what was then called Leopoldville, now called Kinshasa. Let us not leave here without one currency. Let us do this because if we delay, we shall get used to our titles and our sovereignty, and the neo-colonialists will influence and divide us. Nkrumah was not a Jewish prophet, nor did he have the gift of prophecy. But he could see as clearly as one ought to have seen at that time that Africa could only realize her potential if Africa united. Oh, he was right. He was right, because even before he made that speech, the neo-colonialists had started destroying Africa. Many of you will remember that the first coup d'etat in Africa was in 1960. The overthrow of Togo's Sylvanus Olympio. And 1 year later, Patrice Lumumba was killed by the conspiracy of the Americans, the Belgians, and the use of their acolytes in Mobutu Sese Seko and Jose Kasavubu and Moise Chombe. Africans were already beginning to be decimated. In the west of Africa, the former French colonies, you had leaders who thought that they were more French than the French themselves. That is how I understood leaders such as Felix Houphouët-Boigny. I'm told that in those days, in the former French colonies, even Abidjan was called Le Petit Paris, complete with students being told to say in morning parades, our ancestors, the Gauls. How could the ancestors of a Negroid be the Gauls? But they said it nevertheless. So that Africa became the only continent in the world that is referred to as Anglophone, English speaking. If you come here in Namibia, what percentage of the population speaks English that you should be called Anglophone? Then they went to the former French colonies and they called them the Francophones. They went to the former Portuguese colonies and called them the Lusophones. Throughout the ages, the struggle has always been the struggle of the mind. René Descartes, that great French philosopher, said, cogito ergo sum, I think so I am. The question is, you Negroes, who are my brothers and sisters, do you think? Because those who are in the business of thinking, we see the results of the thought processes. And if we are thinking, in what direction are we thinking? Because if my history and memory serves me well, the promises of independence were clear. In 1960, we used to say that we have attained political independence, that we may fight disease so that we do not die young, that we are going to fight ignorance so that we do things on the basis of evidence, and that we are going to eliminate poverty because we want our people to live in dignity. The question is, are Africans liberated from disease? Even this good Namibia, your life expectancy is not beyond 53 years. That is a toddler in Japan. You are dying in your youth.
I'm a king, yes, I'm a king, I think I'm a king,